Let's return to our breaking news now. The end of a 54-year Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad after a rapid rebel offensive. We are joined again by our Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran, who's in Jerusalem. Hi, Matt. Things have been moving quickly, but what has the response been across the region to these developments?
Ruby, I just want to bring you some news that's come through to us from the Israel Defence Forces. We knew that last night the IDF started to move more troops and more weapons and assets into the Golan Heights, the occupied territory along the Israel-Syrian border occupied by Israel. And we've just had in the last few seconds some extra information come through from the IDF. I just want to read it to you so I get it exactly right. The IDF saying that in accordance with the situational assessment following the recent events in Syria, including the entry of armed personnel into the buffer zone, the IDF has deployed forces in the buffer zone and in several other places necessary for its defence to ensure the safety of the communities of the Golan Heights and the citizens of Israel. We emphasise that the IDF is not interfering with the internal events in Syria, and the IDF will continue to operate as long as necessary in order to preserve the buffer zone and defend Israel and its citizens. Let's translate that because that is, of course, very technical speak here. That is saying that the IDF has actually deployed troops inside what we are saying is Syria's border there to try to patrol and enforce this buffer zone between the Golan Heights and Syria. So that shows that Israel is taking this very seriously, is taking this as a threat to its own territory, or at least that occupied area that it currently holds control over in the Golan Heights. And it suggested last night when it started to move troops into the Golan Heights, clearly there was intelligence that Israel was picking up from this part of the world that something seismic was about to happen. And as we've seen in the last couple of hours, that seismic event has been the apparent toppling of the Assad regime. 24 years of rule by President Bashar al-Assad, who is now reportedly having fled the country, and of course a period of time before that by his father, 5 decades of iron rule in Syria as a result. We have also heard this morning, local time, from the government of Jordan. This is the southern neighbour of Syria, and the Jordanian government saying that it is monitoring these situations very closely. It is committed to the security and the stability of the Middle East region. Obviously noting that this is a considerable shift in power here in the Middle East, and that while people may well be celebrating the fact that Bashar al-Assad has been toppled and that these rebel fighters have now appear to take control of Damascus, there are still a lot of unknown factors here, including exactly what will happen with that group, how it will try to enforce its control. We know that this organisation, formerly known as Jabhat al-Nusra, has been rebadged, renamed. It's tried to differentiate itself from al-Qaeda, the terrorist group there, which it previously had affiliations with. It is still designated a terrorist organisation by a number of countries, including Australia. So there are concerns as to how it will enforce its rule now that it appears to have taken control of this key city.
Matt, one of the most striking things about this takeover was its speed. I mean, just a week ago, the idea that Damascus would have been toppled was just unthinkable. Can you just talk us through the geography of the region and how those rebel forces travelled through Syria to where they are now in Damascus?
Yeah, Ruby, let's cast our mind back a week to just last weekend when there was a surprise attack by these rebel forces on the northern city of Aleppo, Syria's second largest city. That took everyone by surprise and came just a couple of days after a ceasefire was enforced between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah is a backer of the Assad regime and had been significantly depleted as a result of its conflict with Israel. So the fighters perhaps have seen an opportunity to launch this attack as a result of that, and have done so in Aleppo. They have then followed, they've followed the highway south, the M5 highway, which stretches from Aleppo down to Damascus. And along the way, they have taken control of the cities of Hama and, in the last couple of hours, Homs, before moving on to Damascus. Now, that shows how they have been able to quickly move towards Damascus, but there are some other strategic elements at play there, because it means that in in taking control of those cities along the highway, they have also been able to cut off access to Syrian ports, including the port area of Latakia. Now, this is somewhere that there had been weapons being brought in. Certainly Russian supplies were being brought in through that area, Russian supplies backing up the Assad regime there. So again, not only taking control of these cities, but also cutting off some of those supply chains. And that's why we have then seen them being able to, these rebel fighters being able to advance very quickly on the Syrian capital there. It is quite startling the speed that this has happened, considering that this civil war has been running for 13 years and had effectively been frozen. That's the term that's been used by many analysts looking at this conflict, saying that not much had really happened. There was a stalemate, an impasse with the various groups that had been fighting against the Assad regime for many years, and now there has been this breakthrough, which people are still analysing to see exactly how that will affect the stability not only of Syria, but this broader region.
Matt, regarding Syria's neighbours, what are they doing with border crossings? Are they open currently, or have some of them closed?
It seems like most of those border crossings remain closed at the moment. Jordan closed its border crossing with Syria in the last couple of days as this situation started to gather ahead of steam. And we have seen reports from the Lebanon-Syria border of that border crossing also being closed, despite the fact that many Syrian refugees who have fled the country over the course of this conflict have rushed to the border, wanting to try to get back in now that the regime of Bashar al-Assad has been toppled. So it appears those border crossings are still closed, and I think that reflects the very volatile situation, the very fast-moving situation that we're seeing in Syria at the moment. None of these neighbouring countries are prepared to open up the floodgates to people potentially pouring out of Syria. We have seen reports of Syrian soldiers, government forces, having fled certain parts of the country, moving towards Iraq and that, but certainly to the south and to the west, and indeed to the north as well, because Turkey is another neighbouring country here. It appears those border crossings remain closed. We'll monitor those developments as they continue to shift in the coming hours, Ruby.
And we'll be coming back to you, no doubt. Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran in Jerusalem, thank you.